We have heard for some time meaningless statements by some Turkish officials with their implied threats, and we want to remind them that the Ottoman Empire fell a long time ago and Iraq is not part of Turkey. Khalid Salah, Kurdistan Regional Government spokesman.
Welcome back to Inside Iraq from Istanbul. This time we are talking about Kirkuk, the scramble for the rich oil city. Will it lead to a conflagration or consensus among rival Iraqis with Nermin al-Mufti, Ozdem Samberg and Mohammed Ihsan? Mohammed Ihsan, the recurring charges against the Kurds vis-a-vis Kirkuk is that they are creating facts on the ground. They're grabbing the centers of power, they're bringing people from all over northern Iraq and say, these are the very people that they were expelled by Saddam Hussein. How do you answer these charges?
Really, we have been hearing these accusations between time to time. And frankly speaking, as Kirkuk was disputed area, and until now it's disputed area, it's a mixture of all ethnicities there. But large number of Kurds and Turkmen was being forcibly leave Kirkuk city and all the governorate during Saddam Hussein's era. And a lot of Arabs brought back to this city as a part of Arabization policy to change the demography. What we've been hearing between time to time, there is a lot of exaggeration, much exaggeration in that, and it's impossible to transfer 600,000 people to a city with so limited resources and capability.
He says these numbers about the Kurds coming back is exaggerated. A lot of people say the number of the Kurds expelled by Iraq are exaggerated. What evidence do you have that the number of the Kurds expelled by Saddam is a lot less? Hold on just a second, Mohammed Ihsan, is a lot less than what reality is, Nermin.
I always said the perfect evidence is the Ittihad Daily. It is the central daily of PUK, President Talabani's party. They issued in November 2003, under the occupation, the number of the whole expelled from Kirkuk were 11,250. Quarter of them were Turkmens. So in which way, I'm going to say all of them were Kurds, no Turkmen with them, in which way those about 11,250 came back to Kirkuk almost 700,000. In which way? It is not logic.
Oh,
so they are saying they are from Karkuk.
It's not logic.
If they are from Karkuk, where I am always asking this from the Kurds, where are their properties?
Let me ask that question.
Where are their neighbors?
Mohammed Ihsan, if 300,000 were expelled, were there their houses and where they used to live?
Nermin Hanum, that's not the true. You cannot return 700,000 to a small city of Kirkuk. More than if you look at all our records which we have now, because I'm a member of High Committee of the implementation of Article 140, so far no more than 11,000 families been returned back to the city. And half of the amount of that's been returning back as Arabs who are part of Arabization, they've been returned back. I will remind you of another thing. During Saddam Hussein's time in 1973, the same issue rose up again. If there was a record, everything which happened during Saddam Hussein's era, it was a record and everything's been recorded. We can go back to records and check the records.
Mr. Ihsan, do not go to Saddam Hussein's record. Go to Ra'id Fahmi records. He said only 25% of those Kurds who are living in or occupying the Kirkuk Stadium are originally from Karkuk. This is Ra'id Fahmi, the General Secretary or the head of the so-called 140 Commission.
Let me ask the Ambassador. Ambassador, this discussion can continue for months and months and months. What is important for Turkey right now is that it has a sizable community. The Turkmen in Karkuk and the Ta'mim governorate, they could amount up to 2 to 3 million. That's a sizable importance, and it has interest not only regarding the Turkmen. If for any reason Baghdad is to succumb to Arbil and somehow allow the Kurds to take Kirkuk, in what way Turkey will react?
Well, first of all, let me make it very clear that Turkey is almost the only country in the region which does not have any irredentist ambitions in the area, and knowing the borders, where are they. I think it is a big advantage for Turkey to be an honest broker, if I may say so, in all the conflicts in the region. That's the reason why we are trying to become a positive and constructive factor in helping solve the problems around us. But to come back to your question, obviously we know that the Turkmens are the largest, third largest ethnic groups in Iraq. And they have suffered a lot during Saddam regime. And they have received almost no media attention in the West. And I think we have a responsibility, not only vis-a-vis Turkomans, but vis-a-vis all the Iraqi peoples, because they are our brothers too. I mean, the Kurds and Turks are flesh and blood.
As a diplomat, as a veteran Turkish diplomat, you would say that. But when it comes to crunch, when politics as practice on the ground manifests itself in a brutal force, there comes a time when the Turkish government, as Recep Tayyip Erdogan somehow threatened that, you know, Kirkuk to us is a red line, don't mess with it.
Well, I don't think that Erdogan threatened anyone, because Erdogan expressed a very obvious view that Turkey is not going to be idle. That means Turkey is going to take all diplomatic relations which are possible. And again, Turkey is a big country. I mean, 70 million population and 700
you
billion
are the situation on the ground.
GDP. So Turkey has a possibility of acting effectively at every level of diplomacy. And definitely we have a strong army, and if we are attacked, we have to defend ourselves.
Meanwhile, let me ask Nermeen, what is wrong with Article 140 of the Iraqi Constitution? Why is it not you on a personal level, as well as many others that you represent, you don't think this is the right remedy for Kirkuk?
Let's begin from the end. This Article 140 was dead according to the Constitution itself. The Constitution said, the Iraqi lawmakers say, this article should be worked till, if there is valid until 31st of December
2007.
After that, there is not this article more. If anybody want to prolong working this validity of this article, they should go through the constitutional amending committee or not. The Kurds are trying to prolong this validity of this article without going through the amending committee. This first. Second, there are the two first steps, that normalization, bringing back the expelled, and property disputes are very good, are excellent.
On what basis the Kurds are demanding Kirkuk? Is it on historical rights, on demographic background, or is it simply a sense that Baghdad is weak right now and Ankara perhaps is involved with the PKK? Let us take Kirkuk now before it's too late, before Baghdad gets stronger, and then it gives us a run for our money. What is the basis for the claim on Kirkuk?
Frankly speaking, they have no basis. They have only a dream. For the last 50 years, they have the dream. Kirkuk for them is a dream. But historically, if you are going around Kirkuk, you will find no mosque, a Kurdish name. You will see no archaeological site, or even no a big family, a big noble, or not noble, I mean, a well-known Kurdish family. Even the graves, you will find no Kurdish grave back 100 years. The Kurdish graves began in Karkuk when this two Sufi Kurdish families entered Karkuk, Talabani and Barzanji. They came from Sulaimaniya, or the area around Sulaimaniya, by the late 19th century. So, and something very interesting, why the whole population in Karkuk, Arabs, Kurds, Kildans, Assyrians, Armenians, why all these populations were speaking, and still most of them are speaking Turkmen, if the majority is not Turkmen in Karkuk.
So you don't see any basis for that?
No.
Ambassador, go ahead.
I compliment my good friend Nermeen Hanım. You know, in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, the big historical metropoles have a tradition of cosmopolitan diversity. Human diversity, religious diversity, ethnic diversity, cultural diversity. It is like Cairo, Baghdad, Mosul, Istanbul, Beirut. Kirkuk is one of them. If you remove this diversity, you impoverish the city. If you keep this diversity alive, you make it a fountain of creativity and harmony. That's exactly Turkey's view. But again, this is matter for all the ethnic and religious groups in Iraq. Turkey is of course ready to be able to help in the possible way it can. But here also there is a responsibility which falls on the United Nations. There is the United Nations Secretary General Special Envoy there, de Mistura. So he is also he has to contribute.
Indeed, what the United Nations said, you know, the situation is so complicated and so heated. The only thing we can do with it is to postpone the election, perhaps to end 2009.
And this is an opportunity.
Let me ask both of you a very simple question, a short answers, please. Let me start with Nermeen. What happens, and this is just a possibility, if the KRG is to swallow Karkuk by force?
According to ITF Iraq Turkmen Front, there will be a genocide against Kirkuk, against Turkmen, I mean, or maybe against Arab. But in my personal point of view, they couldn't have it by force or by...
So they can chew it, but they cannot swallow it. Ambassador, how do you look at Kirkuk as a flashpoint?
It's a flashpoint because I don't want to repeat the same view that I made, but it is important that, again, this is matter for Iraqis, first of all. But if there is such a unexpected, let's say, eventuality, it will be a recipe for catastrophe. It is not only for Turkish, interest. Turkish interest is very clear to see the Iraqis in stability,
prosperous
in security,
and democratic.
Exactly, prosperous and democratic. But there won't be a democracy and prosperity in case there
without
is
a resolution for Kirkuk.
Absolutely.
Former Turkish ambassador and a diplomat, Ozdem Samberk, Nermeen Al-Mufti, Iraqi author and journalist, and Mohammed Ihsan, KRG Minister for Extra-Regional Affairs. Thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq. To access the show and to send us your comments, please go to aljazeera.net/English. We have reached the end of this show from Istanbul. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, from Istanbul, goodbye.